Gene regulation is the process of turning genes on and off. During early development, the cell begins to take a specific functions, while mutation is a change that occurs in our DNA sequence. What is mutation? It is an alteration in the genetic material or the genome of a cell of a living organism or of a virus that is more or less permanent and that can be transmitted to the cells or the virus descendants. Mutation, it is in the DNA of a body cell of multicellular organism. May be transmitted to descendant cells by DNA replication. Again, it can be transmitted to descendant cells by DNA replication and hence result in a sector or patch of cells having abnormal function. Example of this is cancer. It says here that a permanent change that occurs in cell's DNA is called a mutation. So we have here the two types of mutations and an example of chromosome. Chromosomal mutation affecting whole or a part of a chromosome, while gene mutation change to the bases in the DNA of one gene. Mutations in egg or sperm cells may result in an individual offspring, all of whose cells carry the mutation, which often confers some serious malfunction. As in the case of a human genetic disease such as cystic fibrosis, mutations result either from accidents during the normal chemical transactions of DNA, often during replication from exposure to high-energy electromagnetic radiation, example of this are ultraviolet light or X-rays, or particular radiation or to highly reactive chemicals in the environment. Because mutations are random changes, they're expected to be mostly deleterious, but some may be beneficial in certain environment. In general, let us remember that mutation is the main source of genetic variation, which is the raw material for evolution by natural selection. So what are the causes of mutation? Can occur spontaneously. DNA polymerase can attach the wrong nucleotide, but this is rare and usually corrected. Certain chemicals and radiation called mutagens can damage DNA. So one of the example is chemicals can cause mispairing of base pairs or themselves substitute for base pairs. As what I've said earlier, high energy radiation can eject electrons from atoms within the DNA molecule, leaving behind unstable free radicals. Let's now move on to the gene regulation. It is the process of turning genes on and off during early development. Cells begin to take on specific function, as what I've said earlier. Gene regulation ensures that the appropriate genes are expressed at the proper times. Gene regulation can also help an organism respond to its environment. Gene regulation is accomplished by a variety of mechanisms, including chemically modifying genes and using regulatory proteins to turn genes on and off. Also, it is the informal term, gene regulation is the informal term used to describe any mechanism used by a cell to increase or decrease the production of specific gene products, protein or RNA. So, it is the last slide of my discussion. Let us remember that gene regulation is the process of controlling which genes in a cell's DNA are expressed, used to make a functional product such as protein. Different cells in a multicellular organism may express very different sets of genes even though they contain the same DNA.